If one day you find yourself torn between the letter of tradition and its spirit, remember this: I saw you. God sees you. These were Pope Francis's final words to Lucas Bowman, delivered just 2 days before the funeral that would test Lucas's resolve. The weight of tradition hung heavily. The Swiss Guards commandant issued a stern warning that morning: any deviation will dishonor not only the Pope, but the faith itself. Lucas stood at the crossroads of duty and compassion, tradition and conscience. When the critical moment arrived, he broke 500 years of perfect protocol. Those 28 seconds would forever change how the Vatican understood sacred obligation. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss stories like this, and hit that like button if you're already getting goosebumps. Behind those iconic blue, red, and golden uniforms lies a legacy of unwavering discipline that spans 5 centuries. The Swiss Guard, founded in 1506 under Pope Julius II, has evolved from a band of mercenaries into the Vatican's most steadfast protectors, men who've turned discipline into an art form. Their colorful Renaissance uniforms may catch the tourist's eye, but these aren't costumes worn for show. They represent the oldest continuously active military unit in world history. Guardians who've pledged their lives to protect the Holy Father through war, plague, and revolution. Every move these guards make follows traditions established long before any of them were born. Their commitment to protocol serves as their sacred code. When these guards take their oath on May 6th each year, the anniversary of the sack of Rome when 147 of their predecessors died protecting Pope Clement VII, they swear to sacrifice their lives if necessary. This oath carries deadly seriousness. Beyond their Renaissance appearance are modern soldiers with rigorous military training. Every guard must complete mandatory service in the Swiss Armed Forces before applying. Their psychological conditioning creates men who maintain perfect alertness while standing motionless for hours. Guards train to hold positions until their muscles burn and then continue, transcending physical discomfort through sheer willpower. As one former guard described it, learning to exist outside your body while remaining perfectly present. The selection process ensures only the most disciplined individuals wear the uniform. Candidates must be Swiss citizens, practicing Catholics, unmarried men under 30, standing at least 5 feet 8 inches tall with irreproachable reputation. Meeting these requirements is merely the starting point. Only 35 from hundreds of applicants survive the intense physical and psychological screening each year. They specifically seek men with the capacity to sublimate personal desire to duty. Individuals who set aside their own needs when duty calls. Their training resembles that of elite military units but with an added spiritual dimension. Guards practice maintaining formation amid manufactured chaos, crying children, medical emergencies, and simulated security threats. One exercise requires standing at attention while family photos are held inches from their faces. Another demands perfect stillness while recordings of loved ones in distress play nearby. They become like human fortresses, witnessing everything while acknowledging nothing. Morning briefings before major Vatican events serve as psychological reinforcement. Commanders emphasize that protocol uphold the dignity of both Pope and faith. Your body belongs to the Church now, lieutenants remind the men before papal ceremonies. During these moments, guards feel the weight of 5 centuries of tradition becoming almost physically tangible on their shoulders. Papal funerals represent the most sacred duty in the Swiss Guard calendar. The positioning of each guard, the timing of each movement, and the precise angle of their halberds remain unchanged for centuries as perfect expressions of reverence. In the Vatican's hierarchy of respect, maintaining formation during these solemn processions symbolizes the eternal continuity of the Church itself, unchanging and transcending the mortality of any single pope. For half a millennium, through 87 papal funerals, no guard had ever willfully broken formation. Breaking this protocol isn't merely neglecting duty, it actively dishonors the deceased pope himself. This unblemished record of discipline spanning 5 centuries makes what was about to happen all the more extraordinary. To break from this formation means breaking with history itself, placing individual judgment above centuries of tradition, something that had never occurred until now. While the Pope's funeral approached with its weight of centuries-old protocol, Lucas Bowman represented the living embodiment of Swiss Guard perfection. A man whose commander once said, "If I could clone Bowman, I would have a perfect regiment." Yet beneath this flawless exterior ticked something unexpected, something his father, the watchmaker, might have recognized. The mechanism of a different kind of loyalty altogether. Born in Lucerne, Lucas grew up surrounded by the precise tick of timepieces in his father's watchmaking shop. Amidst tiny gears and delicate springs, young Lucas absorbed lessons that shaped his character more profoundly than military training ever could. His father, hunched over his workbench with a loop to his eye, would often murmur, "Everything matters, Lucas," his hands steady as he aligned miniature components. The space between seconds is where craftsmanship lives. This philosophy, that perfection resided in the invisible spaces between moments, became the foundation upon which Lucas built his life. When Lucas joined the Swiss Guard at 18, his superiors quickly noticed something different about the quiet recruit from Lucerne. While other candidates struggled with motionless vigilance, Lucas seemed to find a natural home in stillness. His posture never wavered, his attention never drifted. Senior officers pointed to him during training, telling newer recruits, "Watch Bowman, he breathes discipline." Over 14 years, Lucas crafted what one superior described as a blank canvas of compliance. Never a reprimand, never a misplaced step, never a forgotten protocol. Each morning, he rose before the required hour to press his uniform. During papal audiences, dignitaries commented on the guard whose eyes, despite their fixed position, registered everything. In the Apostolic Palace's Clementine Hall, Lucas stood so still that visitors sometimes startled upon realizing a living person occupied the post. His fellow guards found him respectful but enigmatic. Few knew about the small wooden clock he kept in his quarters, a gift from his father that he wound each night before prayer. This ritual connected him to his father's craft and homeland, revealing dimensions that his reputation for mechanical perfection often obscured. The timepiece, with its hand-carved case and exposed movement, held personal significance beyond sentimentality, a reminder that even the most perfect mechanisms contained hidden complexities. Through 3 papacies, Lucas earned commendations that accumulated in his file. During lengthy ceremonies when younger guards showed subtle signs of fatigue, Lucas remained a fixed point in a moving world. New recruits studied his technique, trying to decode his unwavering focus. None fully understood that for Lucas, standing guard wasn't merely duty, it was precision elevated to reverence. Like the watches his father crafted, Lucas functioned with perfect reliability on the outside while countless intricate parts moved within. His reputation solidified until he became a living legend within the Swiss Guard's ranks. Younger guards created tales that grew with each retelling. Lucas neither confirmed nor denied these stories, understanding that myths sometimes served a purpose. But on the morning of Pope Francis's funeral, something shifted. An older officer approached him as they prepared to take positions. Leaning close, the man's weathered face revealed understanding that transcended rank. "Remember who you served today, Bowman?" he whispered. "Not the office, the man." Then he straightened and walked away. Those words resonated with the ticking of his father's clock. The space between duty and conscience. Wasn't that where true service lived? As Lucas took his position, no observer could detect any change in his perfect stance. Yet beneath the pressed uniform, those words had found purchase, connecting to something deeper, a memory, a promise. For the first time in his spotless career, Lucas Bowman felt 2 loyalties pulling him in opposite directions, each demanding absolute fidelity. The competing loyalties battling within Lucas traced back to a fateful moment when he broke protocol for the first time, and instead of punishment, received wisdom that would haunt him for years. Sometimes the holiest thing we can do is move when we're told to stand still, the Pope had told him after witnessing his momentary lapse, words that now echoed with almost prophetic weight as Lucas stood at attention beside the pontiff's coffin. It happened during a Wednesday general audience 3 years earlier. The Paul VI audience hall filled with the murmurs and rustling movements of thousands of pilgrims who had traveled from across the globe. Lucas maintained his post near the central aisle, posture impeccable, eyes methodically scanning for threats, while the Pope moved through the faithful, blessing and touching outstretched hands. A high-pitched wail sliced through the ambient sounds, distinct from the reverent whispers surrounding him. A small boy, about 5 years old, had broken away from his mother in the dense crowd. His face contorted with fear, spinning in desperate circles, cries growing more frantic with each passing second. The crowd, fixated on the Holy Father, remained oblivious to the child's distress. 14 seconds. Lucas counted them instinctively. He remained frozen in position. On the 15th, something shifted within him. He moved swiftly through the crowd toward the sobbing child. Kneeling down, ceremonial uniform contrasting with this simple act of compassion, he spoke softly to the frightened boy. The child's breathing steadied slightly at the sight of the uniformed guard. Within moments, Lucas reunited him with his frantic mother before returning to position. The incident lasted less than 40 seconds. Lucas resumed his stance, outwardly unchanged but inwardly bracing for repercussions. Such a breach during a papal audience carried severe consequences. The summons came that evening. His Holiness would like to speak with you. Lucas followed silently to the Pope's private study, the weight of dread pressing down with each step. Pope Francis sat behind his desk, eyes watchful, expression unreadable. Why did you move when you're trained to stand still? His tone carried curiosity rather than accusation. Lucas hesitated, the silence heavy with tension. He reminded me of someone, my brother. His voice caught, the memory unexpectedly vivid. We were separated at a festival in Lucerne as children. I saw that same terror today. The admission emerged with raw emotion, surprising even himself. The Pope studied him, the pause stretching between them. To separate duty from compassion is an artificial division. God doesn't recognize it, he finally said, his words settling in the quiet room. Your instinct was correct. Sometimes the holiest thing we can do is move when we're told to stand still. Their conversation continued, Francis sharing his own struggles balancing tradition with compassion from his years in Buenos Aires. The exchange transcended hierarchy, two men discussing the complex intersection of duty and humanity, the muffled sounds of Vatican life continuing beyond the study walls. As Lucas prepared to leave, Francis offered a final thought. Your training teaches you to watch without being seen, to protect without drawing attention. Today you fulfilled that calling, protecting the dignity of a child in distress. That's the deeper purpose behind our traditions. The encounter created a bond between them. In subsequent audiences, Francis would occasionally meet Lucas's gaze with a slight nod, a silent acknowledgement of their understanding. For Lucas, the Pope's words became a touchstone beneath the weight of protocol. See the humanity in others and respond with compassion. Yet this conversation alone couldn't explain why Lucas would risk everything at the funeral. The final piece would arrive as the Vatican prepared to bid farewell to Francis, a last communication transforming their private understanding into a public act of defiance and devotion. 2 days before the funeral, as the Vatican grounds fell into shadow and grief, a knock at Lucas's door delivered what no training manual could prepare him for: the Pope's final, handwritten request. The simple sound echoed through his sparse quarters just after midnight, when most of the Vatican had surrendered to uneasy sleep. Outside, the eternal city mourned, black banners already hanging from windows, crowds gathering silently in vigil. Inside the sacred walls, preparations continued with the mechanical precision of centuries-old tradition. the air heavy with incense and solemnity. Father Ventresca stood in the corridor, his weathered face grave under the dim hallway light. The silence pressed around them, broken only by distant footsteps somewhere in the labyrinth of Vatican passageways. In his hands lay a simple envelope bearing the papal insignia, lacking the formal seals and ribbons of official communications. "For your eyes alone," the priest whispered, his voice barely audible. "I was instructed to deliver this personally." The father's eyes held Lucas's for a moment longer than necessary, communicating something beyond mere duty, a recognition of Lucas's special connection with the Pope. Alone again, Lucas sat on the edge of his narrow bed, turning the envelope in his hands. His customary steadiness abandoned him now. His fingers trembled slightly as he broke the seal, recognizing immediately the distinctive, slightly uneven script of an old man writing with an arthritic hand. Simple paper carrying words of profound intimacy. "Lucas," the letter began, "you possess a rare quality. You stand guard not out of duty to an institution, but out of love for what that institution should represent." The words blurred momentarily as Lucas blinked back unexpected emotion. This was the man who had seen through his perfect exterior to the heart beneath the uniform. The Pope's confession followed. "I made a mistake. I chose institutional loyalty over human need. It haunted me." The Supreme Pontiff laying bare his failures to a Swiss guard. Lucas could almost hear the Pope's Argentine accent, the same gentle tone from their private conversation years ago. The letter revealed wisdom from a man who had struggled with the same tensions that now pulled at Lucas. The most challenging part came in the middle of the page. "If one day you find yourself torn between the letter of tradition and its spirit, remember this: I saw you. God sees you, and perhaps that is enough." Lucas read the sentence 3 times, each reading deepening its impact. The Pope was offering permission to choose compassion over blind obedience when the moment demanded it. The lamp cast long shadows as Lucas sat motionless, absorbing words carrying a dying man's final wisdom. The absence of formal address underscored the deeply personal nature of this communication, a bridge between souls, not between offices. Near the bottom came the request itself. The Pope asked Lucas to place this letter on his coffin during the funeral procession, a personal wish from Francis to Lucas, a final act that would necessarily become a public statement, visible to billions watching worldwide. Lucas folded the letter with reverent precision and tucked it into the inner pocket of his uniform jacket, where it would rest against his heart. In that pocket it would remain hidden, yet its presence would be the heaviest burden he had ever carried. Standing before his small mirror, Lucas straightened his shoulders. The Pope's final request created a crossroads where every path forward would require sacrifice. To honor the letter meant dishonoring centuries of tradition. To ignore it meant failing the man who had truly seen him and entrusted him with this final, deeply personal wish. As the cypress coffin bearing Pope Francis emerged from St. Peter's Basilica, the weight of the letter against Lucas's chest suddenly felt heavier than his ceremonial halberd. What happened in the next 28 seconds would send shockwaves through the Vatican that no one could have anticipated. The funeral procession moved with centuries-old precision. Altar servers led with candles and incense, followed by the sacred hierarchy, priests in white, bishops in purple, cardinals in crimson, their vestments flowing through the square like a sacred river. At the center, 8 pallbearers in black carried the simple cypress coffin, its humble wood stark against the grandeur of St. Peter's Square. Lucas maintained perfect stillness, his exterior betraying nothing of the inner conflict. With each approaching step of the procession, his decision weighed heavier. The letter from Pope Francis pressed against his chest, a physical manifestation of his impossible choice between 5 centuries of protocol and a dying man's final wish. His mind oscillated between the commandant's warning, "Perfect precision honors His Holiness," and the Pope's own written words, "I saw you, God sees you, and perhaps that is enough." As the coffin drew closer, Time stretched thin, each heartbeat an eternity as Lucas made his choice. It began with a microscopic shift in his stance, imperceptible anywhere else but among the Swiss Guard, where stillness was sacred. It registered like a fault line opening. The guards nearest him sensed it first, eyes flickering with confusion across otherwise stoic faces. His first step broke the silence like a thunderclap in a cathedral. The sound of his boot on stone echoed across the hushed square. His second step, halfway to the coffin now, pulled a collective breath from the crowd, a whisper of disbelief sweeping the square like wind through summer grass. Time compressed into crystalline focus. The world watching a single guard move when history commanded stillness. With military precision contradicting his revolutionary act, Lucas transferred his halberd to his left hand. His right reached into his breast pocket, withdrawing the letter that had burdened him since that midnight delivery. Cameras captured every movement as he knelt, placing the letter beneath the wooden crucifix adorning the Pope's casket. "For your final journey," he whispered, his fingers lingering, combining reverence with farewell. Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re, poised to begin the final commendation, paused at this unprecedented breach. His momentary hesitation, his choice not to intervene, became its own kind of permission. The letter remained where Lucas had placed it, as if it belonged there all along. The crowd's reaction spread outward like ripples from a stone dropped in still water. Phones captured the moment from every angle, ensuring global documentation within minutes. Yet Lucas returned to position with the same measured steps that had carried him forward, his face expressionless, posture restored to perfection. What astonished observers most was the Vatican's response, or rather, its absence. No one moved to remove the letter or discipline the guard. The funeral continued around this unexpected moment like a river flowing around a new stone. This silence carried profound meaning. Certain acts of disobedience hold their own authority, transcending written rules to honor deeper truths. For those watching closely, this moment revealed the Vatican's capacity to recognize when compassion might outweigh tradition. The letter remained throughout the ceremony, a visible testament that even within the most structured institutions, humanity sometimes requires flexibility. Without words, a new precedent emerged, honoring both the office and the man who had held it. Deep within the Vatican's apostolic archives, Lucas now serves as guardian of history rather than ceremony. The climate-controlled vaults, filled with centuries of papal correspondence and administrative records, provide a sanctuary far from public scrutiny, a fitting assignment for a man whose moment of conscience had drawn worldwide attention. It was recognition that some traditions serve a higher purpose, Lucas reflects, while preserving the personal letters of former popes. As he carefully handles an ancient timepiece found among papal artifacts, Lucas contemplates the theological tension between obedience and conscience. The Pope's letter rests nearby, both men's actions now part of the living history Lucas preserves daily.